So welcome back into the Metaverse today. We're going to dive into RFOX, and this is a project that we've watched and looked at for quite some time. Many of you have probably done some investment in the token. Maybe you've looked at the strategy around the RFOX ecosystem. Well, today we're going to dive into the Metaverse a little bit deeper. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Metaverse Insider. Joining me is Ben Fairbank, who has been on our show before. He is the CEO of RFOX, so great to have you back in here from RFOX Labs. How are you?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, very well, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, it's been a while, Ben, since we had a chance to chat. Doing great. You know, we've clipped over. We've created 2 shows out of the network now, really focused in on Metaverse gaming, NFTs here on Metaverse Insider. And I thought, hey, listen, you guys were on TechPath the last time, so this is, I think, a better fit for what you guys are doing, and tuned into our
Yeah, sure.
audience because people obviously that listen and watch our show here today are really tuned into the Metaverse. Let's get into where RFOX is going, because there's a lot happening at labs over there. You guys have been really hard at work since the last time we talked. Tell me what have you been up to over the past 4 months?
Yeah, so we're up to 110 core staff now. So just been recruiting like mad, but we've been putting the final touches on a couple of the big projects pieces that come together. And the MVP for the Vault, obviously, which is the platform that everything plugs into. So without that, we don't have that showcase. So we're getting the dirty MVP ready to go out to market so that we can start plugging things in, which is very exciting.
So as far as active development, you know, the last time we talked, we saw a lot of your projects were mostly in roadmap form. Now you've got a release date here set for the 27th. Looks like there's a lot happening in terms of real movement on the projects. The active development that you're working on right now, what is kind of the next step? Obviously, we know you're getting ready to release on the 27th. What am I going to expect to see on the 27th?
Yeah, so active development's been huge, and it's been a lot on the other projects launching. But from the perspective of the Vault, you'll be able to get in there, walk around, go into the shops, make purchases. So it's going to be a full walk around sandbox type of environment with those basic functions and features. There won't be concerts and events happening live at that particular point in time, but we're opening that up to a select audience. We're starting to bring them in slowly, load testing it, and then scaling, and then adding the iterations. So that's pretty
Very
exciting,
cool.
and it's good. It's good to be at that point because it's you can don your headset and walk in and see what we've got to offer.
Well, I think that's been, you know, when you and I talked last, I mean, the vision was there. In reality, this is a pretty fast pace in terms of moving, because some projects we watch and follow very closely here on the network, you know, they're coming along. There's a lot of promises. There's milestones that are hit within the roadmap to a certain extent, but a lot of times we see projects that are a little bit slow in actually delivering, you know, at least a hot product to the market to where somebody can experience, even if it is just a super alpha. So this is a big deal, I think, for you guys to be in this position for sure. So what are some of the experiences that we'll see inside the Vault Metaverse?
Yeah, so as stated, you'll be able to walk in, have a look around. We've got apartments and avatars coming very shortly. You'll be able to sort of see the formation of where that's going to be. The visuals that you just saw then, that's what we're working towards, because originally we were never going to have a AAA quality type of world. It was going to be more sort of a lot more simplistic. So this is a lot of time and effort's gone into the design of this, and now we take it from the very much alpha stage and phase that will open up on the MVP to test function and then move into this form. But you've also got RFOX TV about to drop hot on its tail. You've got the NFT white label platform with a marketplace ready to open to rival OpenSea and LooksRare multi-chain. So that's going to drop as well. So we need the Vault to go open, like to open up and go into MVP form to start plugging those products in, because they're ready and they are much more polished.
Yeah. Talk to me quickly about RFOX TV. How will it be utilized in the Vault, and really what's going to be the use case for it?
Yeah, so RFOX TV to the naked eye would look like, and all of our ecosystem is made up of tools, would look like a YouTube rival. It's got a very familiar look and feel to it. What it's going to do is we can flick the switch for the creator economy, and it means that influencers and people can start to run their own channels and then do social gifting, token issuance, NFT issuance by plugging into the NFT white label platform. But obviously, that's going to flow straight into the avatar side of things. So allow me to be able to broadcast live shows through my avatar in the ecosystem through the TV as well to people that are watching on the apps, but with the same functionality of being able to buy and interact and to really immerse themselves with the presenter. So we provide the tools, flick the switch, and I guess if you look at Bored Apes and the utility case that they had, and people commoditized and productized those, that's like the newspaper print. This the next phase becomes the TV, so it gives people the ability to really go that route.
And you're saying that project is a little bit more polished and ready to roll, so it essentially will plug in. Is it a standalone, or will it be one that is really unified into the Vault?
Yeah, so everything that we release is able to be, and it has to have passed a 9-point funnel system to show that it's a standalone. So this will be a standalone business and a standalone product line that allows us to bring in revenue and users, but these things all plug into the Vault. And the idea of them all plugging into the Vault was, if you're like a company that's building multiple ventures, especially across multiple industry sectors, you would have to go through a perpetual raise cycle every time you launch. You're going to have to build up a new audience. This allows us to be able to plug into a shared audience and to utilize or to give us a much greater chance of success for anything that we launch because of the audience that it has. So yes, standalone and also plug in.
Very cool. I like it. And I think that's one of the things that is, I guess, the bigger challenges that we're seeing, at least with the open metaverse, is that we are seeing, much like the app ecosystem was built on in the early days of both the web and eventually became somewhat of the walled garden side of things. That's always something that I am a little concerned about, is ecosystems becoming so self-feeding without having that standalone element, behind it or capable of it. It's kind of like what happened with Twitter. If you look at Twitter and where Vine eventually evolved out of, and then of course we saw that kind of implode, and then you saw the birth of TikTok. So, I mean, the market kind of spoke in the essence of two social media platforms that weren't too totally integrated. They both could, kind of live in their own world. So I feel like the more metaverse projects that kind of go in that direction, that's going to be a good thing, I think, because it does give the market the ability to kind of let go where they want to go. But if they have the need to kind of integrate, then there's the potential for that to happen for sure. So cool stuff. All right, so let's talk about with the MVP on the 27th. How many people will be able to access it? What's the case going to be in terms of stress testing the platform?
Yeah, so we're looking at 300 people off the bat, and that'll be made up of a combination of influencers, investors, media partners, and also the general public. So we're going through a registration process now, and then that will scale based on the load testing and everything that we're putting through there. So it's very important for us as well, especially when you don't have the events yet, to have that social element. So it's important that we do have a steady flow of people coming through there. So we'll be looking at opening up the volumes of people very quickly. And then obviously once we start plugging in the other products and services, then it becomes more of a landslide. It becomes a much, much faster process. But the iteration process on the form side will happen iteratively, and the function side will be very, very rapid. And I mean, the thing is, it looks like this has all happened pretty quickly, but obviously this project's been around now for 4 years, and a lot of people are sort of saying, you've got to deliver, you've got to get things to market, and that's what we're doing with the MVP for this. But you have to have all of your other products that connect to it before you go out with the platform. And this is the earliest we can go out with the platform, and I think we're very grateful that we had multiple year head start.
What are you anticipating to make this available for kind of the everyone experience? What's that timeline going to look like?
Well, that's a very good question. We were supposed to be about a year before we sort of got it to app version as well, and made it so that anyone could access it and you didn't have to have a VR headset. We're actually almost a year ahead. We're actually already in alpha with the apps. So we're actually using the app version ourselves. It's not ready it's a month or two away from being able to sort of push out to the public. But we're sort of making this happen much quicker than we thought. But ultimately, the idea of going VR first is because the whole metaverse is supposed to be VR, immersive experience. You want people to go in there and be blown away and see that. But obviously, there's still a fair way to go before it's accessible to everybody. Only 2 hour battery life. People feel a bit sick when they go in there for the first time, and there's still
Yeah.
it's still out of reach for a lot of people. So we've got a long way to go. So we've got a little bit of time on our hands, but we just need to be good at what we do. But when the avalanche comes.
Yeah, be prepared for that because I think you're right. The scale in which we'll see adoption is going to get interesting. I think over the next 18 months, as we see the breakout of metaverse. I mean, all the trends that we're watching, both from an investment class, also from the sector of technology adoption, because developers, of course, are a big part of that. And I think as we see those two things come together, the next big phase is adoption from the early adopters, and then you start to see those bell curves. So it has a lot of similarities to what, early internet days, early mobile, early social days really kind of have for Web3. All right, so when you think about this, obviously the number one thing is, what am I going to be able to do in terms of exchange of goods or services? Are you going to be able to do anything at least in the alpha or in the MVP, to where we could actually do some sort of an exchange for crypto?
Yeah, sure. So, for example, the NFT white label platform that we've got already will allow people to be able to create NFT collections by choosing the chain that they wanted to go out with. They'd be able to, let's say, for example, Wax is the first one that we integrated. Obviously, ETH and then the EVM and layer 2 solutions will be integrated very quickly, and we're working on those right now. But effectively, someone could spin up a collection, put it up for sale in the shop, and sell that in a shop in the MVP.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. So that's going to be, I mean, you're really going right to commerce with it. So I think that'll be a good plus because I think that's one of the things right now that, even with some of the mature metaverse projects that are out there, outside of the play and earn aspect and some of the quests and things that typically roll into these, we haven't seen a lot outside of entertainment, a lot of real use cases that have been really leveraged against e-commerce or some sort of commerce inside the metaverse. So it's going to be
That's why we
interesting.
went for that angle.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
so
it.
we went for that angle because we needed a USP, knowing that Facebooks and Amazons and all the rest of it would come in. So that's why we focused on e-commerce.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Facebook, obviously you're debuting on Meta's Oculus on the Quest 2. Why go that direction? I mean, you've got the HTC Vive, you've got some other tool sets that are kind of, obviously Oculus being kind of the big player here. Was that the only reason, or is there some other, potential plan here in terms of the roadmap?
Yeah, we sort of want to go in our own direction. Obviously, I think it doesn't make sense. I mean, we want to own the end-to-end journey. So we've been looking at how to produce our own headsets and do subsidizing for those. We've drawn a few blanks. A lot of these guys do have a big head start. HTC and Oculus obviously lead the markets, but the newer technology that's coming through that's trying to battle it, some of it shows promise, but it's not quite ready yet. And what we want to do is really be able to brand our own headsets and make sure that they're compatible with all of this stuff. But we really want to own that and then look into touch and feel as well, because that's all going to be part of the experience. So ultimately, we've sort of used what was there and what was fastest to market, and then we're very much open to partnering with people and working with people to sort of broaden those horizons for sure.
Yeah. Any plans to go into the PlayStation Store or using the PSV VR2?
Yeah, this is something that we're looking at now, and we're trying to work out how to best tackle that. So we've got a lot of products that have to plug in as well, so we've got to work out how to make all of that sort of come together. So there is a little bit of technical and infrastructure stuff that we're trying to work through now, but ultimately we'll do anything we possibly can to make sure that we've got that wider market appeal.
Yeah. What about desktop browser? What is it going to? I mean, because I think when you look at roadmap for development, web is going to be a big play in this in the future, especially on mobile.
Sure.
At some point, we're going to see more and more integration around this. How are you guys addressing that? In terms of rollout.
Yeah. So already working on that, and like I said, we've already got the app version, and we'll web side of things taken care of for sure and certain, because predominantly being based in Southeast Asia, even though a lot of our audience target has been Southeast Asia, we're picking up lots of customers and lots of users from outside of this region as well. But predominantly in this region, as you know, the majority of the internet access is through mobile phones and handsets, and obviously they're getting better and better. But it is a massive part of what we need to do going forwards, and we've been structured to build for web and also for apps since day one. So, like I said, we're ahead on the schedule, and now we're just working on making sure that we get that to market as quickly as we can.
Okay, so that's a good thing, I think, as we start to see the scale, mainly because you've got, different parts of the world that operate almost in completely different operating systems. If you think about some of the mobile first
Yeah.
countries, that they don't have
Yep.
desktops at all. So that's
No,
going to
not
be a
at
big
all.
part of it. Yeah, so I like
Yeah.
that, with just using that kind of strategy. Okay, so let's talk about, we got to talk about the stores, and that is whether you go to the Play Store, whether you go to iOS, and that
Mm.
capability of going into an app-based ecosystem. We've already started to see some of the pushback, over the past few years of the gaming
Mm.
ecosystems. And now you're talking about a metaverse ecosystem that could live within there, that are going to have transactions, going to have revenue, going to have all these additional layered in components. How are you guys
Mm.
navigating that with companies like Android and Apple to deal with that? Because that has already been
Yeah.
and shown to be a challenge.
Yeah, it's a massive challenge, and I think most of these companies are trying to work out how to go their own path. And you've got the trade off, right? If you go down the path of dealing with the App Store and Play Store, you've got to give away 30%. You've got to be very careful. They're still very dubious about crypto payments and all the rest of it. One of the things that we've
Mhm.
done since day one is sort of said we don't want to be a payment processor. That's very important from our perspective, and we do want to take whatever's in people's pockets. So we're not one of those metaverses that says you must use a particular type of payment, because, for example, as stated before, you can't use crypto as a form of payment in Vietnam, and there's lots of countries that will be operating in that you can't, and you'll just miss out on that. So what we do is we take a transaction fee on the backside, convert that into RFOX, and then pay that out to our users as a form of rewards. But in relation to this, most people are going for subsidizations and trying to work out how to do APK direct or an app download directly. We're sort of working out what the best way to do that is. So, if we've built something that's compliant, we've built something that relies on other people's payment processing, we do become eligible for, obviously, for listing on these bigger stores. But inevitably, we want to go down our own route, and we want to be able to make that
Mhm.
as a quicker transition as possible. But we're building for owning that journey end to end, because we want to be able to give as much back to the creators in our ecosystem as we can. We don't want to have to be paying 30% upfront. We need to be doing it our own way. We need to go our own route. We've learned from the people before us.
Yeah, it's. I think that kind of has been, it's been the goal for almost every creator out there. Even you see this already in the music business. You see this in entertainment, to a certain extent in some of the creator content industries starting to move in this direction. Even though we're still seeing a lot of isolated walled gardens, much like what the app ecosystems have presented
Mm.
themselves with, around this. So, I think the fact that we're seeing at least people aware of it now, especially in the right position, whether you're a developer, you're a content creator, you're an entertainer, artist, all these aspects that will eventually be in the metaverse, and the route that they're going to take is going to be very critical, I think, in the future of how this develops. So it's good to see you guys are going with that direction. Okay, so there's a couple of technical questions here, from a stance of
Hmm.
just getting to the stage that you guys are at right now, big
Yeah.
leaps forward since we last talked. What's
Mm.
it been like to get, I guess to a certain point, all the aspect of the art, the graphics, all those kind of
Mm.
tool sets that you've had to bring in from a rendering standpoint just alone? That had to be a
Mm.
monumental, process. Is that something that's scalable as you start to build the vault out?
Yeah, that's why we're sort of going out with the basic MVP version in the beginning and the sandbox type of environment, because to get to that AAA quality, you've got to think about the pixel count, and you've got to think about how
Hmm.
poly counts, and you've got to think about like the rendering and the real time rendering and the load and the capacity to be able to scale at will. And if you can't do that, then you're going to end up with a really clunky, slow to load type of
Right.
experience. And I think that it's going to get easier and easier to build in VR as time goes on. But at the the minute. You can understand why people are going with stuff that's very simple. So ours is an iterative process of going from something that looks kind of fairly basic to something that becomes AAA as quickly as we possibly can. But yeah, it's we've brought on a massive team. We've got lots of developers working on it. We've got third parties helping us as well, and it's a huge production to try and just get basic stuff out. And then you've got your infrastructure and your auditing and your code and your APIs that you're plugging into, and every single one that you connect to adds a layer of complexity or a security risk. And it's such early days, so it's a matter of suck and see for some of it, and others there's well trodden paths that you have to follow. But it's a lot of there's a lot of holding your breath. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I can imagine this would be kind of fun, in essence, because you're kind of learning as you go, at the same time kind of trying to challenge some of the architecture in which you're building on, all these kind of things that developers have to face on an ongoing basis, but now you're doing it at scale, and you're doing it in most of the time in areas of technology that are really emerging, just now getting there, so you never know, because the next iteration and the next V that you end up with is going to completely re-engineer what you've done over the past 6 months, so it's going to be tough.
Well, you get to a point where you can't Google answers anymore. You can sort of look stuff up, and you can refer to other things, and then you get to a point where you go, hang on, there's nothing in Google for this, so we're on our own.
Yeah,
we're at that point almost every day now. We're there every day now, so that's where we live. Yep,
I like it.
We like
All right,
it.
So let's talk about the connection into VR, because obviously with the Oculus, being able to tie a wallet to these functions, the ability to immerse VR into a space like Vault. And really, I think for a lot of people with both AR applications and eventually AR hardware, this is going to become somewhat of an API connectivity point, or is there something out there that you guys are building now? Are you guys home growing this, or is this something that you can go out and partner with some people to help with that integration into the VR headset application when it comes to a wallet connection?
Yeah, so we've homegrown it all, and trying to find, even for Ethereum, it's difficult to find applications that allow you to be able to do some of the integrations depending on what it is that we want to do. So we're having to do a lot of it ourselves. And when you're building it yourself, you're also mindful the whole time you're building it that there's probably 5 or 6 other people trying to build something similar, and that within 2 weeks of you finishing a 6-month slog and sprint sessions with massive teams, that something will come out in the public market that's available to everybody, and you think, damn.
Yeah.
But it wasn't available at the time. It isn't available at the time, and we just have to build. We can't just wait for for other people to build stuff. So the majority of stuff we're building ourselves, and we're doing it from the wallet connectivity. We've got an RFOX ID. So that's like a federated ID system, and we're trying to plug everything into our federated ID system that allows you to basically just log in, and then that gives you access to and does the calls and the lookups. And then the VR side's all built on Unity. So that allows you to just sort of put your headset on and walk around, and then all the interaction and transaction stuff is done through what we've built.
Interesting, cool. All right, let's talk about tokens for a second before I have some other questions I want to get into. But for the RFOX token, because we have a lot of investors only, they don't play games. They're looking strictly at, leverage, really kind of going after. But between the RFOX token and the VFOX token, kind of explain the two and the benefits of each.
Yeah, so the RFOX token is a transactional token. So that's a token that will be used for everything. So obviously, you can pay with other methods, and you'll be able to pay other providers with methods depending on what they accept. But for us, if you want to buy NFTs in our ecosystem, or you want to trade NFTs, or you want to use our marketplace, everything's in RFOX. And then VFOX is a rewards-based token. So VFOX is the token that you stake to get rewards, and those rewards are paid to you in the format of RFOX. So we take a 2% clip of the ticket on the way through for transactions through the Vault, for example, or on our marketplace. Then that's distributed back to half of that's distributed back to to VFOX holders. So VFOX is strictly a rewards token; it's not a transactional token, and RFOX is strictly a transactional token, and it's not a rewards token.
Got it. All right. So now that we've got the economy side of it, let's look at a couple of things that we'll probably see coming down the pipe. We've seen this with other metaverse, applications. Everything from music, concerts, entertainment. Now we're starting to see artists start to roll in, the games start to plug in. it becomes a true
hmm
entertainment hub. And that's something, we've talked about even here on our show is to really kind of focus on more of this new, I won't even call it a cottage industry anymore, because I think this will most likely be, much like crypto gaming, I feel like is going to be one of the big breakover to where people really understand this whole play and earn concept. But I think the next step is
hmm
going to be all in the entertainment layer. How are you guys approaching
Oh, for
that in
sure.
terms getting people in, connecting into your Vault system, and also just
Yep.
connecting into RedFox?
Yeah, so this is where we're starting to get a bit of traction because before we could only talk about it, now we can start to show people. So, what we've been busy building the whole time is if you've got art, music, doesn't matter what file format, you can now create a collection on our using our contracts from our end-to-end NFT platform, create your marketplace and site, have your marketplace. You can create derivatives that can then be used as game pieces in our games and our gaming economy. We've got a finance site, so you can stake and farm tokens. You've then got a media platform that you can then build your channel and your audience on and release your music
Mm-hmm.
and turn that into NFTs. And then you've got the play of going into the metaverse, meaning that you've got the shops, avatars, apartments. So we've built this structured this for the entirety. So, for example, you'll be able to create an avatar that will be able to perform in front of a live audience, and during that performance, people will be able to buy the merchandise that you're selling either through physical or through digital. So we're partnering with digital partners as well that can actually produce those clothes and assets for you that do for some of the biggest brands in the world. And then partnering with music companies so that they can actually, people can get their music professionally published and put out to market as a form of NFTs. So all of that, we've basically done like an IKEA. You walk in to buy a chair, and you find out that you should upgrade your couch, and you've also got beds and everything else in there. We do complete end to end, and that's extremely important for what we do. So the music vault, the music quarter that you can see there, that'd have live performances, live concerts, and people will be able to sell those experiences and sell them as a song that you can then put royalties to. You can sell advertising space behind that. You'd own the rights to. So we're doing some pretty ingenuitive stuff that we haven't really sort of talked about, but it's pretty obvious if you have a look at the tools that we're bringing to market and how they would potentially pair together. We flick the switch for the creator economy and let those guys come in and do what they do, and give them the tools and resources to be able to really build brands in the metaverse.
I think that's going to be a cool factor of how this all evolves, is really kind of rolling into that entertainment side of things and seeing a lot more of it. But also at the same time, you've got the e-commerce side. When you look at like the Arcimoto shop, can you talk a little bit
Mm.
about kind of what was some of the results of that in terms of maybe in sales or just in general, kind of what you guys were trying
Yeah,
to do here?
Yeah, it was an interesting time in the market as well, and we still did about 1.2 million for the second lot of shops. But what we did was we actually sort of had a look at. We'd heard feedback. We'd sort of done the first sale purely in RFOX, and the second sale, people had said you should have done it in Ethereum and picked up the Ethereum crowd. So now we've got a side by side comparison because we've done two
Hmm.
quarters. Um,
Right.
but now what we've done is we've moved towards really giving back. So when we've got this upcoming avatars and apartments, shop owners actually get like 6 free avatars and 6 free apartments per shop owner. So they're going to be able to recoup a lot of the cost of whatever they've spent on their shop back straight away. And that's something that's really important to us, is that we're a model that would, people that enter the artifact world would be similar with. If you've made an investment at the top, you're going to keep getting value down the chain. Every time we do releases, you'll get a drop. And that's
Right.
extremely important to make sure that we look after our early investors, but we're also bringing in people that can collaborate for some of those drops, that the creators can come in and take a piece of the action when they come to market as well. So it's been an interesting experience for the first 2 quarters, but we're really hustling to try and get the third quarter to a point where before we do the sale, you can actually walk through the quarter. Might not be functional, but you'll be able to walk through and see where your shop is and see the shop that you're actually bidding on, which we think would just make it's a new level. And then you know that you've got 6 free apartments and 6 free avatars coming as a result. It makes things a lot more lucrative for the investors.
Yeah, I think that would be a cool way to do it for sure. All right, so with that being the case, startup cost on something like that for someone that is trying to do a metaverse venture, what would that look like for
Mhm.
whether it's a creator or whatever it might be?
Yeah, so we'd help a lot of these people come to market with the standalone tools. As you said before, are these standalone businesses, so we can help them with their own NFT collections very cheaply. Some of the
Hmm.
projects that we're working with, we're helping them at no cost. So we're saying we'll help launch you, and then basically the cost that it costs to set up the contracts and deploy and all the rest of it, we can do a clawback or something like that. So the creators that are
Right.
very talented, that have got a great idea, so it's kind of like a way of funding those guys. But
Hmm.
ultimately, what we do is we would 100% allow that. But from a shop perspective, it's what people are prepared to pay. So far, the shops have gone from anywhere between 20 and 100,000, depending on their positioning. But the difference between ours and another metaverse style is that we have 100 shops for sale in total over the course of 4 quarters. There's not 20,000, 40,000. They don't get
Yeah.
extended. You've got one piece of prime real estate that you can use as a business, and the other thing that we did interestingly is we built all of the world and the shops out previously. So what happens is when you go in, you don't have holes with people sitting on chairs saying, I'm not going to build anything, I'm going to wait for the value to go up.
Yeah, that would, yeah, which I agree. I think going that direction is a smart move, because that's one of the things I look at in terms of value proposition and what many of these projects are trying to do. In many cases, it just gets so overrun and it doesn't create that scarcity, which is what most people want to pay for. And especially if you have kind of in a shop scenario where you've got maybe an opportunity for that shop to start working with multiple different, you know, projects or multiple different games, or could be a variety of different kind of metaverse ventures that eventually could run through it, much like any other retail entity out there. What about when you think about retailers in these shops and the ability to take other aspects of payment, whether it's fiat or USDC or
Mm-hmm.
other cryptos, maybe what is kind of the plan for being able to enable that?
Yeah, we'd take whatever's in your pocket. So effectively, you could pay whatever currency you want to pay in. The shop owner might say, I want Great British pounds. They'd have to pay for the conversion. But how we
Hmm.
do it is we take a percentage on the way through. We convert that back so there's constant buy demand because people say, if you can't, if you're not accepting RFOX and forcing that down people's throat, how's RFOX going to go up in value? Well, simply we take a transactional percentage on every transaction and we convert that back into RFOX. So there's constant buy demand, and then that's distributed back to the VFOX holders. So unless you're prepared to accept everything and be truly interoperable and open yourself up to other metaverses and collaborations, then you are building that walled garden that's going to be very, very difficult for you to be successful.
Yeah, very cool. I agree. I think opening up two things like that are it's critical, especially with the capacity of what we're seeing with so much openness in a lot of the projects that are becoming somewhat interoperable. And I think obviously this
Mm,
is going to happen as we start to see ETH, especially with ETH going to 2.0, and we see the merge happen. This is only going to
mhm,
be very interesting to see how some of these economies start to take place. Let's talk lastly about partnerships in general. When you
mhm.
look at the roadmap over the long term for the Vault roadmap, and I want to bring the roadmap on screen, but when you look at that, partnerships are going to be one of the key things that really kind of get you down to the next level. What would be
Mhm.
the direction? Because I mean, you're kind of in a position where you could cherry pick here on a variety of
Mhm.
industries, whether it's entertainment, music, creators.
Yep.
Where do you start?
We can't we can't keep up with the conversations, to be honest. We're looking for people that are looking to build long term. And you might say, well, hang on, you're doing partnerships and you've got big brands as well. Some of those big brands still are trying to gain relevancy now or reinvent
Yeah.
themselves. And a lot of them
Hmm.
don't really understand the space, don't want to understand the space. And we don't really want to work with people that are out for something that's just a quick money grab or something like that. So, to be 100% honest, we're much more looking at helping to incubate and launch some of these very hungry young entrepreneurs that understand this space very well. They know how to create at
Right.
rapid paces. They understand the technology challenges because those guys are the ones that are going to build faster, don't have to go through the red tape, don't have this sense of, I know I'll probably get in trouble for this, but of entitlement, of uh, I know it sounds weird, but the thing is that most of these successful brands are going to be born in the metaverse and not the other brands come in to chase the hype of the metaverse. So
Yeah.
we're doing a combination of both, obviously. but obviously where look, the most of my talks are with companies who have got a really great idea, got tons of good Web 2.0 experience, but they've got a great idea for Web 3.0, and they're the ones that where they move faster. They don't have boards to go back to and seek ridiculously lengthy periods of approval. They can move fast,
Yeah.
and I think that the partnerships will be massive. But we'll have a stake in a lot of these partnerships.
Listen, this has happened before. It happened in Web 1, Web 2, we saw this, and you're exactly right. A lot of the companies that were birthed in both of those breakout technological advancements were companies that didn't exist a year before.
Correct.
And
Correct.
in many cases, they went the route of trying to go the traditional, of trying to bring in, hey, let's bring in the traditional banking system. Oh no, that didn't work. All right, so let's start PayPal. All right, let's try to bring in,
Hmm.
traditional, technology and social media aspects, and let's think about new media. And new media didn't really go that direction, so they say, all right, well, let's start BuzzFeed. And it just continued to accelerate in that way. So I'm in agreement with you, as I think the next brands that break out in metaverse and in Web3, they're going to be brands we've never heard, possibly brands that aren't even out there today. So it's going to be interesting
A
to watch
hundred
for sure.
percent. And another thing will probably get me into trouble, but the ones that are focused on only working with big brands
Yeah,
are not going to really sort of cut it long term, because the thing is, how many do you have to work with to get that credibility to say the big brands are interested and they're moving in there? You just need a
yeah,
couple, and then you can go on and say, now let's build with brands who are going to build at pace, who have good intent, who are hungry to prove themselves and to build a reputation for themselves. And then you go to the brands and say, hey, if you want to get into this space, come and buy this company before they get too big. And you
yeah.
help to create acquisition targets for these companies. And I think that's a much smarter ploy for us.
Yeah, it's going to happen. I think that is, it's happened, time and time and again. Is most of the companies. I mean, that's how Meta, Facebook, really kind of grew its
Mm-hmm.
dominance once it was no longer an innovator when it became a copycat, and then eventually became an acquisition house of being able to buy the next
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur that was built, building and developing in the social space. I think we'll definitely see that in metaverse for sure. Hey, Ben, it's always fun to talk to you. I love to kind of pick your brain and really kind of
You
get
too.
going in this direction. For us, it's right up our alley. This is the kind of thing we love to talk about and really dive in deep. And we always love to get into projects that are really, changing the game out there. So good luck to what you guys are doing over at Red Fox for sure.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. And good luck to what you're doing as well. Well done.
Absolutely. All right, you guys are tuned in over on the podcast right now. Make sure and stay tuned right here for the YouTube show, because this is where you're going to catch all these interviews, a lot of our analysis, our breakdowns. If you have not joined into our Diamond Circle, that's a private member group now that is tens and tens of thousands strong. And the way that we're building it is we're sharing back alpha information, a lot of our insights on our own analysis on many of the projects around gaming, metaverse, all that kind of cool stuff. It's going to come to your inbox twice a week. Easy to do and easy to join. Just click the link below. If you want to catch me, it's out on Twitter at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.